Captain Lyra floated through the crystal corridors of her ship, her gas-filled body moving like a jellyfish in water. Her home world of Zephyr Prime was peaceful and beautiful, with floating cities among pink clouds and gentle breezes that carried the songs of her people. The Zephyrians had never known war. They spent their days studying stars, writing poetry, and creating art with light beams. But today was different. Today, everything would change. Lyra's communication officer, Kyle, drifted toward her with fear in his large silver eyes. "Captain," he whispered, his voice like wind through crystal chimes. "The long-range sensors are picking up something terrible." Lyra followed him to the observation deck. Through the transparent walls, she could see their colony world of Kepler 442b spinning slowly below them. The planet was covered with their crystal cities, each one housing thousands of Zephyrian families. Children played in the floating gardens while adults worked in their libraries and art studios. "Show me," Lyra said softly. Kyle's tentacle-like fingers touched the control panel. The air in front of them shimmered, then showed a picture that made Lyra's heart freeze. Ships, hundreds of dark, ugly ships moving toward their world like a swarm of insects. "The Vex Dominion," Kyle breathed. "They found us." Lyra had heard stories about the Vex. They were a cruel race that conquered peaceful worlds for fun. They destroyed beautiful things because they enjoyed watching others suffer. They had no interest in art, science, or beauty. They only wanted to control and destroy. "How long do we have?" Lyra asked. 3 days, maybe 4 if they stop to refuel," Kyle replied. "Captain, we have no weapons. We never built any. We don't even know how they work." Lyra looked down at her world again. She could see the crystal spires where Zephyrian children learned to fly. She could see the great libraries where they kept the knowledge of 1,000 peaceful years. All of it would be destroyed when the Vex arrived. "Send out a distress call," she ordered. "Send it on all frequencies to every corner of the galaxy." "What should the message say?" Kyle asked. Lyra closed her eyes and thought of her daughter, Zara, who was only 50 years old and still learning how to shape light into beautiful patterns. She thought of all the children who would never grow up if the Vex came. "Tell them we are a peaceful people," she said. "Tell them we have never hurt anyone, never built a weapon, never fought a war. Tell them the Vex are coming to destroy us, and we cannot stop them. Ask for help. Ask for mercy. Ask for someone, anyone, to come save us." Kyle nodded and began to work. His fingers danced over the controls as he sent the message racing across space, faster than light itself. The message contained their location, their history, and their desperate plea for help. The message said, "This is Captain Lyra of the Zephyrian colony on Kepler 442b. We are a peaceful species under attack by the Vex Dominion. We have no weapons, and no military. Our children are hiding in fear. We will all die unless someone helps us. We beg any kind species to come to our aid. We offer our knowledge of science and art in exchange for protection. Please, if anyone hears this, we need your help." The message shot out into space, bouncing from relay to relay across the galaxy. It reached the peaceful Altarians, who sent back their sympathies but said they had no military. It reached the wise Centaurians, who promised to remember the Zephyrians in their prayers. It reached dozens of other species, all of whom felt sorry but could do nothing to help. The message traveled further, reaching the outer rim of the galaxy, where few civilized species lived. In that dark region of space, it was picked up by a species that most of the galaxy preferred to forget existed: humans. The message reached the human exploration fleet commanded by Admiral Sarah Chen. She was leading 12 ships on a peaceful mission to map new star systems. The humans had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, and the rest of the galaxy was still unsure what to do with them. Most species in the Galactic Union called humans Deathworlders. This was not a compliment. It meant they came from a world so dangerous that it had turned them into something frightening. Earth was a planet where everything tried to kill everything else. The weather could destroy entire cities. The animals hunted each other without mercy. Even the plants were often poisonous. This had made humans different from other species. While most aliens evolved on peaceful worlds where survival was easy, humans had to fight for everything. They had sharp teeth, strong muscles, and eyes that faced forward like predators. They could run for hours without stopping, heal from terrible injuries, and fight even when badly hurt. The Galactic Union was afraid of humans. They seemed too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous to be trusted. Most aliens preferred to avoid human space entirely. But Admiral Chen was not thinking about any of this when she received the Zephyrian distress call. She was sitting in her command chair aboard the UES Indomitable when her communications officer, Lieutenant Rodriguez, brought her the message. "Admiral," Rodriguez said, "we're picking up a distress call from an unknown species. They're under attack and asking for help." Chen listened to the message with growing anger. She had heard of the Vex Dominion. They were bullies who attacked defenseless worlds for sport. The idea of them targeting peaceful people who had never hurt anyone made her blood boil. "Where are they?" she asked. "About 6 days away at maximum speed," Rodriguez replied. "But, Admiral, we're an exploration fleet, not a military one. We only have light weapons." Chen stood up and looked at the star map showing the Zephyrian world. She thought about what would happen to those peaceful people if no one helped them. She thought about children hiding in crystal towers while monsters approached their world. "Set course for Kepler 442b, she ordered. "Maximum speed." "Admiral," her first officer, Commander Johnson, said quietly. "The Galactic Union told us to avoid contact with unknown species. They said we're too aggressive, too violent. They don't want us starting any wars." Chen turned to face her bridge. Crew. She saw humans who had volunteered to explore the galaxy in peace. They had left Earth to discover new worlds and make friends with alien species. But they were still human, and humans had certain rules that could not be broken. "Someone sent out a cry for help," Chen said firmly. "That's all I need to know. We're going to answer that call and we're going to save those people if we can." "What about the Galactic Union?" Johnson asked. "They can complain later," Chen replied. "Right now there are innocent people about to die and we're the only ones close enough to help them." The human fleet changed course, their engines burning bright as they raced toward Kepler 442b. None of them knew that they were about to become the galaxy's most misunderstood heroes. Behind them, their message was already racing back to Earth, informing Human Command that their exploration fleet was heading into combat. Soon more human ships would follow. The Zephyrians had asked for compassion. Instead, they were about to meet humanity. 2 days after sending their distress call, the Zephyrians detected ships approaching their world. Captain Lyra rushed to the observation deck, hoping to see the gentle rescue vessel she had dreamed of. Instead, she saw something that made her blood freeze. The ships were dark and angular, covered in what looked like weapons. They moved through space like hunting predators, their hulls scarred from battles. These were not the peaceful medical ships Lyra had expected. These looked like warships. "Kyle," she whispered to her communications officer, "are these the Vex?" Kyle studied his instruments with trembling fingers. "No, Captain. These ships are different. The design is unknown. They're sending us a message." "Put it through," Lyra said, though every instinct told her to run. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Lyra was looking at the most terrifying creature she had ever seen. The being had smooth skin instead of gas-filled membranes. Its eyes were small and faced forward like a hunter's. Its mouth was full of sharp white teeth. But the most frightening thing was how solid it looked, like it was made of muscle and bone instead of flowing gas. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Indomitable," the creature said in a voice that was surprisingly warm. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." Lyra tried to speak but only managed to float backward in terror. Finally, she found her voice. You're not what we expected." Admiral Chen's face showed confusion. "I'm sorry? What did you expect?" "We called for compassionate beings to help us evacuate," Lyra managed to say. "We asked for medical ships and rescue vessels. You appear to be military." "We are military," Chen admitted. "But we're here to help you. You said the Vex Dominion was coming to attack your world." "Yes, but we hoped someone would help us escape. Not fight," Lyra explained. "We are a peaceful people. We know nothing of war. We thought kind beings would come to take us away from danger." Chen's expression grew confused and then angry, but not at the Zephyrians. "You want to abandon your world? Your homes?" "Of course," Lyra said, not understanding why this seemed strange. "Fighting leads to death. It's better to live somewhere else than to die defending empty buildings. But this is your world," Chen said firmly. "Your children were born here. Your culture was built here. Why should you have to leave because some bullies want to take it?" Lyra couldn't understand this creature's thinking. "Because fighting back would mean violence. Violence is evil. Good beings do not hurt others, even in defense." Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that chilled Lyra to her core. "We heard your call for help. We're here to provide it. The Vex won't touch your world or your people, I promise you that. But you cannot fight an entire fleet, Lyra protested. You have only 12 ships. The Vex have hundreds. 12 is enough, Chen said with frightening certainty. Prepare your people for battle. Keep them in their shelters until we give the all clear. The transmission ended, leaving Lyra staring at a blank screen. Around her, the other Zephyrians whispered in fear. Captain, Kale said softly. I've been analyzing their ships, the weapons they carry. I've never seen anything like them. These beings come from a world that taught them to kill. Lyra felt sick. Have we traded one enemy for another? Will these humans destroy us after they defeat the Vex? I don't know, Kale replied. But Captain, they traveled 6 days to reach us. If they wanted to conquer us, why respond to our distress call at all? They could have simply taken our world by surprise. On her flagship, Admiral Chen was having her own problems. Her officers were studying the Zephyrians with fascination and concern. Admiral, Commander Johnson said, these aliens are completely helpless. They have no weapons, no military training, and no understanding of combat. They're like children. Which makes them perfect victims for the Vex, Chen replied grimly. The Vex choose targets they know can't fight back. It's not conquest to them, it's entertainment. But sir, Lieutenant Rodriguez added, the Zephyrians seem more afraid of us than they are of the Vex. They keep talking about evacuation instead of defense. Chen looked out at the beautiful crystal cities floating in Kepler 442b's atmosphere. She could see Zephyrian children playing in gardens that hung in midair, completely unaware that death was coming for them. The sight reminded her of Earth cities where human children played while their parents worked to protect them. They're afraid of us because we're different, she said finally. We come from a world that taught us to fight. They come from a world that never needed to. To them, we probably look like monsters. Are we doing the right thing? Johnson asked. Maybe we should help them evacuate instead of forcing them to fight. No, Chen said firmly. Running away doesn't solve the problem. The Vex will just follow them and attack their new home. The only way to stop bullies is to make them understand that their victims are protected. She turned to address her entire crew over the ship's communication system. Attention all hands. In 24 hours, the Vex Dominion will arrive to attack innocent people who have never hurt anyone. These people are afraid of us because we look dangerous to them. They don't understand that sometimes you have to look dangerous to protect the innocent. She paused, thinking of her own daughter back on Earth. The Zephyrians called for help and we answered. It doesn't matter if they don't understand us. It doesn't matter if they're afraid of us. What matters is that someone needs our help, and we have the power to give it. Below on Kepler 442b, the Zephyrians watched the human ships position themselves around their world. The ships moved with precision and purpose, forming a defensive pattern that would force any attacker to go through them to reach the planet. Dr. Keth, the colony's chief healer, floated next to Captain Lyra as they observed the human preparations. They're protecting us, he said with wonder. Look at how they position their ships. They're making themselves targets so the Vex will have to fight them instead of attacking us directly. But why? Lyra asked. They don't know us. We can't offer them anything valuable. Why would they risk their lives for strangers? Perhaps, Dr. Keth said thoughtfully, this is what they mean by help. We ask for compassion and they're showing it in the only way they know how. On the human flagship, Admiral Chen watched the long-range sensors. Soon the Vex fleet would arrive. When they did, they would learn something that most of the galaxy didn't yet understand about humans. They would learn that there was a difference between being violent and being evil. They would learn that the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy could also be the most protective. They would learn why evolution had made humans into predators, and what happened when predators chose to hunt hunters instead of prey. The Zephyrians had called for compassion, and received warriors instead. Soon, they would understand that sometimes, compassion wore armor and carried weapons. The humans were ready to show the galaxy what Deathworlders really were. The Vex Dominion fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a dark cloud of death. 300 ships filled the space around Kepler 442b, their hulls decorated with the skulls of conquered species. Admiral Thex, the Vex commander, expected to see empty space in a defenseless world ready for destruction. Instead, he found 12 human ships arranged in a defensive formation around the planet. What is this? Thex growled to his bridge crew. His species looked like giant insects with razor-sharp claws and black eyes that showed no mercy. Who dares stand between the Vex and our prey? His communications officer clicked his mandibles nervously. The ships are unknown, Admiral. The design doesn't match any species in our databases. Scan them, Thex ordered. How many crew members? What weapons do they carry? The results made the Vex Bridge crew buzz with confusion. Admiral, the ships are small but heavily armed. Each one carries approximately 200 crew members, but sir, the beings inside, they're unlike anything we've seen. Explain, Thex demanded. They're dense, Admiral. Solid muscle and bone instead of the usual gas or liquid forms. Their bone structure suggests they evolved on a high-gravity world. Their teeth and claws indicate they're natural predators. Thex laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Predators? We are the greatest predators in the galaxy. Open a channel to these fools. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the massive Vex fleet with calm eyes. Her crew was tense but ready. They had spent the last day preparing for this moment. Incoming transmission from the Vex flagship, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. Put it on screen, Chen ordered. The image that appeared made several human crew members step backward in shock. Admiral Thex was a nightmare of sharp claws and clicking jaws, his black eyes reflecting no emotion except cruelty. Unknown species, Thex said in a voice like grinding metal. You have entered a Vex hunting ground. These creatures belong to us. Leave now, and we will allow you to live. Admiral Chen stood up slowly. Her movement was controlled and deliberate, like a predator preparing to strike. When she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Alliance. These people asked for our protection, and we have given it to them. You will leave this system immediately, or we will remove you. Thex's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. You have 12 ships, we have 300. Are your people insane? Chen's smile was cold and dangerous. No, we're human. Human? Thex had never heard the word before. What is a human? You're about to find out, Chen replied. This is your only warning, leave now. Thex cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. Destroy them. Start with their flagship. The Vex fleet began to spread out, preparing for what they expected to be a quick slaughter. They had conquered dozens of worlds using overwhelming numbers and fear. No species had ever stood against them with such a small force. On Kepler 442b, Captain Lyra and her people watched from their crystal shelters. They could see the massive Vex fleet surrounding the tiny human ships, like wolves circling sheep. They're all going to die because of us, Lyra whispered, her voice full of guilt. We should have told them to run. Dr. Keth was studying the human ships through his instruments. Captain, look at this. The human vessels are not retreating. In fact, they're moving forward. Forward? Lyra couldn't believe it. Into the middle of the Vex fleet? On the Indomitable's bridge, Chen was giving orders in the calm voice of someone who had done this before. All ships, battle formation Delta. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. Understood, Admiral, came the replies from her 11 other captains. Ready to engage. The human ships suddenly accelerated, diving straight into the heart of the Vex formation. This was not how space battles usually worked. Most civilized species fought from long range, trading careful shots while keeping safe distances. Humans fought like the predators they were. The first Vex ship to fire at them learned why humanity had survived on the most dangerous world in the galaxy. The human ship didn't try to dodge the energy beam that struck it. Instead, it absorbed the hit and kept coming, its armor glowing red-hot but holding. Then the human ship returned fire. The weapons that erupted from the human vessels were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Instead of the elegant energy beams used by most species, humans fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Metal slugs the size of cars smashed through Vex shields and armor like they were made of paper. But that was not the most frightening thing about human weapons. The most frightening thing was how many of them there were. Each human ship seemed to be covered in weapons. Guns of every size fired continuously, turning space around them into a storm of deadly metal. Impossible, Thex screamed as his sensors showed 3 Vex ships destroyed in the first 30 seconds of battle. How can such small ships carry so much firepower? His science officer's voice was filled with fear. Admiral, their ships are built differently than ours. Where we have crew quarters and comfort systems, they have weapons and armor. These beings have designed their ships for only one purpose: war. The human ships moved through the Vex fleet like sharks through a school of fish. They didn't fight like civilized beings who valued their own safety. They fought like creatures that had evolved in constant danger, where hesitation meant death. When the UES Defiant took too much damage to continue fighting, its captain didn't retreat to safety. Instead, he aimed his ship at the largest Vex vessel and rammed it at full speed. The explosion destroyed both ships, but it also took out the Vex command ship and 15 others nearby. "They're insane," Thex roared as he watched the kamikaze attack. "What kind of species destroys its own ships to win a battle?" "The kind that comes from a death world," his tactical officer replied in a terrified whisper. "Admiral, I'm reading stories about these humans in our databases. They come from a planet where everything tries to kill everything else. They evolved to survive by being more dangerous than their environment." The battle raged for 3 hours. The humans were outnumbered 25-1, but they fought with a fury that the Vex had never encountered. They used damaged ships as weapons, fired through their own debris fields, and continued fighting even when their vessels were falling apart around them. Captain Lyra watched the battle with growing amazement and horror. She had never seen anything like the way humans fought. They protected each other with a devotion that seemed impossible. When the UES Ranger was surrounded by 6 Vex ships, 2 other human vessels immediately moved to help it, even though doing so put them in terrible danger. "They're dying for us," she whispered. "Beings we don't even know are dying to protect us." "No," Dr. Keth corrected her, his voice filled with wonder. "They're not dying. Look at the battle statistics." Lyra looked at the numbers and gasped. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the humans were winning. The Vex fleet that had started with 300 ships now had less than 100 left. The human fleet had lost 4 ships, but the remaining 8 were still fighting with undiminished fury. Admiral Thex finally understood what he was facing. These were not the usual peaceful species that begged for mercy when attacked. These were apex predators from a world that had taught them that the only way to survive was to be more dangerous than everything else. "Retreat!" he screamed to his remaining ships. "All vessels retreat immediately." But Admiral Chen was not finished with them. Her voice cut across all frequencies, reaching every Vex ship in the system. "This is Admiral Chen. You came here to attack innocent people. Now you know what happens when you pick on someone under human protection. Spread the word to your entire species. Any world under our protection is off limits. Attack them and we will hunt you down." The surviving Vex ships fled into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind the wreckage of 200 vessels and the clear message that humanity was not to be trifled with. In the sudden silence after the battle, Captain Lyra opened a communication channel to the human flagship. "Admiral Chen," she said, her voice filled with emotion she couldn't name. "Why did you do this? Why did your people die for strangers?" Chen's face appeared on screen, tired and bloodied but still strong. "Because you asked for help," she said, simply. "And where we come from, when someone asks for help, you give it." In the aftermath of the battle, space around Kepler 442b was filled with debris from destroyed ships. The 8 remaining human vessels hung in orbit like wounded guardians, their hulls scarred and blackened from the fight. Victory had come at a cost that made Captain Lyra's heart ache. Admiral Chen's flagship, the Indomitable, was barely holding together. A massive explosion had torn through its command section, and emergency lights flickered throughout the ship. Chen herself was unconscious in the medical bay, her body broken but alive. Commander Johnson had taken temporary command of the human fleet. When Captain Lyra requested permission to come aboard the damaged ship, he agreed immediately. "We want to help," Lyra explained as her small shuttle docked with the Indomitable. "Your people saved us. The least we can do is try to save them." Lyra floated through the human ship's corridors, amazed by how different everything was from Zephyrian vessels. Where her ships were made of crystal and light, human ships were built from metal and determination. Every wall was reinforced, every room was designed for efficiency rather than beauty. But what struck her most was the crew. Despite their injuries and exhaustion, the humans continued to work. They repaired damage, cared for their wounded, and prepared their weapons in case the Vex returned. They moved with purpose and discipline that came from a lifetime of facing danger. Dr. Keth had come with Lyra, carrying advanced Zephyrian medical equipment. When they reached the medical bay, they found Admiral Chen connected to machines that were keeping her alive. "The explosion threw her across the bridge," explained Dr. Martinez, the ship's chief medical officer. "She has internal bleeding, broken bones, and severe burns. We've done what we can, but our medical technology is limited compared to most galactic species." Dr. Keth studied the unconscious admiral with his large, gentle eyes. Despite his fear of these violent creatures, he felt nothing but admiration for the woman who had risked everything to protect his people. "May I examine her?" he asked softly. Dr. Martinez nodded. "Please. We've heard stories about Zephyrian healing abilities." Dr. Keth extended his tentacle-like appendages and placed them gently on Chen's forehead. His species had evolved the ability to sense and repair cellular damage, a skill that came from millions of years of peaceful evolution. As he worked, his body began to glow with soft blue light. "Incredible," Dr. Martinez whispered as he watched the healing process. "The internal bleeding is stopping. The broken bones are mending." It took 3 hours, but slowly, Admiral Chen's condition stabilized. Her breathing became stronger, her heartbeat more regular. When she finally opened her eyes, she found herself looking up at an alien creature she had expected to fear her. "You saved my life," Chen said weakly. "You saved our entire world," Dr. Keth replied. "This was the least we could do." Chen tried to sit up and winced as pain shot through her body. "How many did we lose?" 4 ships, Commander Johnson reported. 812 crew members. The Vex lost 200 ships and approximately 40,000 personnel. Chen closed her eyes. 800 humans had died to protect people they had never met. It was a price that weighed heavily on her heart, but she knew every one of those crew members would have made the same choice again. "Admiral," Johnson continued, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Word of the battle is spreading fast." "What kind of messages?" Chen asked. "Mixed reactions," Johnson admitted. "Some species are calling us heroes. Others are saying we're dangerous warmongers who will destabilize the galaxy." Captain Lyra moved closer to Chen's bed. "Admiral, I need to ask you something that has been troubling me. Your people fought with such fury, such violence. How do we know you won't turn that violence against us someday?" It was a fair question, and Chen considered it carefully before answering. "Captain, where I come from, we have a saying. The strongest should protect the weakest. Yes, we are violent. Yes, we are dangerous. But we choose who to be violent toward." She struggled to sit up, ignoring Dr. Keth's protests. "We could have conquered your world easily. We could have taken everything you have. Instead, we bled to protect it. That should tell you something about who we really are." Dr. Keth helped steady the Admiral as she continued speaking. "The galaxy sees us as monsters because we look frightening and fight with fury. But they don't understand that we learned to fight because our world taught us that the innocent need protectors." Over the next several days, as the human ships underwent repairs, the Zephyrians worked alongside the human crews. It was a strange partnership, the gentle, floating aliens and the solid, muscular humans. But slowly, understanding began to grow between them. Zephyrian engineers marveled at human technology. Where other species built elegant but fragile systems, humans built everything to survive in the worst possible conditions. Their ships were designed to function even when half destroyed. Their weapons were built to fire even when overheating. "Your entire civilization is built around survival," observed Chief Engineer Vell as she examined a human plasma cannon. "Every system has backups. Every component is over-engineered. Where we come from," explained Chief Petty Officer Williams, "things break at the worst possible moment, so we build everything to keep working no matter what happens." Meanwhile, the humans were amazed by Zephyrian science. These peaceful beings had developed technologies that seemed like magic. Healing machines that could repair any injury, energy systems that created no pollution, and communication devices that could send messages across the galaxy instantly. "You could have built weapons with this technology," Admiral Chen observed as Dr. Keth showed her a device that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. "Why didn't you?" "Why would we?" Dr. Keth asked, genuinely puzzled. "We had no enemies to fight. Our world provided everything we needed. We spent our time creating beauty and advancing knowledge instead of preparing for war." Chen nodded slowly. "That's the difference between us. You had the luxury of peace. We had to earn it through strength." The most significant change came when news of the battle reached the Galactic Union. The governing body of civilized species had been debating what to do about humanity for months. Some wanted to quarantine human space, afraid that these aggressive Deathworlders would disrupt galactic peace. Now they faced a dilemma. The same species they feared had just saved an entire civilization without asking for anything in return. Ambassador Quinn of the Altarian Federation contacted Captain Lyra directly. "Captain, The Galactic Union needs to understand what happened. Were the humans acting as conquerors or protectors? Lyra looked out at the human ships that were still protecting her world, their crews working tirelessly to repair battle damage. Ambassador, they came when we called for help. They fought when we could not fight. They bled when we were too weak to bleed. If these are conquerors, then I hope they conquer the entire galaxy. But surely you fear their violent nature? Ambassador, Quinn pressed. I fear what would have happened to my people if they had not come. Lyra replied firmly. The humans may look frightening, but they are not the monsters in this story. As word spread across the galaxy, other species began to reconsider their opinions of humanity. The Vex Dominion, meanwhile, sent messages to their allies warning them about the new threat. But their warnings only served to spread humanity's reputation further. Admiral Chen, still recovering from her injuries, received a message from Earth Command. Admiral, the transmission said, the Battle of Kepler 442b has changed everything. The galaxy now knows we exist and they know what we're capable of. How should we proceed? Chen looked out at the Zephyrian world below, with its crystal cities gleaming in the light of their sun. She thought about the children who were now safe to play in their floating gardens, and the adults who could continue creating their beautiful art. Send more ships, she said finally. If the galaxy thinks we're monsters, let's show them what kind of monsters we choose to be. The age of human protection had begun. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442b, the galaxy was a different place. The crystal cities of the Zephyrian world now gleamed under the protection of human orbital stations. Children who had once hidden in fear now played freely in their floating gardens while their parents worked alongside human engineers and soldiers. Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Kepler station, watching Zephyrian artists create sculptures of light in the space between the human defensive platforms. Her body still carried scars from the battle, but her spirit was stronger than ever. Admiral, Captain Lyra said as she floated up beside her, the Galactic Union has sent another message. They want to meet with you. Chen smiled. Over the past months, she and Lyra had become unlikely friends. The gentle Zephyrian had learned to see past humanity's frightening appearance, while Chen had learned to appreciate the beauty of a species that chose peace over power. What do they want this time? Chen asked. They want to offer us full membership in the Galactic Union, Lyra replied. But not as monitored Deathworlders. They want to make us the galaxy's official peacekeeping force. Chen was quiet for a moment, watching a group of human children play with Zephyrian youngsters in one of the station's recreational areas. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just months ago, the children of predators and prey playing together without fear. What do you think, Lyra? Chen asked. Should we accept? Lyra's large silver eyes reflected deep thought. 6 months ago, I would have said no. I would have been terrified of giving weapons to a species like yours. But now I understand something I didn't before. What's that? Violence is not evil, Lyra said slowly. What makes violence evil is the reason behind it. The Vex used violence to hurt the innocent. You use violence to protect the innocent. That makes all the difference. Their conversation was interrupted by Commander Johnson's voice over the communication system. Admiral Chen to the command center. We're receiving a distress call. Chen and Lyra hurried to the command center where they found the communication staff analyzing an incoming message. The transmission was weak and filled with static, but the desperation in the sender's voice was clear. This is Captain Drac of the Mollusk Colony on Titan 7, the voice said. We are under attack by the Hegemony Empire. They demand we surrender our world and become their slaves. We are a peaceful people with no weapons. Please, someone help us. We have heard stories of beings called humans who protect the innocent. If you exist, if you can hear this, please help us. Chen looked at the star chart showing the location of Titan 7. It was 3 days away at maximum speed, on the opposite side of Zephyrian space from Earth. Admiral, Johnson said quietly, we only have 15 ships here. Intelligence reports suggest the Hegemony is using at least 50 vessels in this attack. Chen nodded. The numbers were bad, but not impossible. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need reinforcements at Titan 7. Admiral, Johnson continued, there's something else. The mollusk species, they're not like the Zephyrians. Our databases show they're more like giant snails. They can't even leave their shells without special equipment. Chen turned to Lyra. What do you know about the mollusks? They're even more peaceful than my people, Lyra replied. They communicate through chemical signals and spend most of their time creating philosophical theories. The idea of violence is completely foreign to them. Then they need our help, Chen said simply. Within hours, the human fleet was moving toward Titan 7. But this time, they weren't alone. Captain Lyra had requested permission to come along, bringing 3 Zephyrian ships equipped with advanced sensors and communication equipment. We cannot fight, Lyra explained to her crew. But we can help the humans fight more effectively. As they traveled through space, word of their mission spread across the galaxy. Other species watched with interest and fear as the human fleet moved to answer another distress call. Some called them heroes. Others called them a dangerous disruption to galactic order. The debate reached its peak in the Galactic Union chambers, where Ambassador Quinn was addressing the assembled representatives. The humans have proven they will fight for any species that asks for help, Quinn said. But should we encourage this behavior? What happens when their interpretation of help conflicts with our laws? Ambassador Thane of the Crystalline Confederacy rose to respond. The humans have done something none of us have managed in centuries. They've made the predator species afraid. The Vex Dominion hasn't attacked a single world since Kepler 442b. The Hegemony Empire is being forced to fight for their conquests instead of simply taking them. How is this not good for galactic peace? Because they're changing the rules, Quinn replied. For thousands of years, weaker species have survived by hiding or surrendering. Now the humans are teaching them to fight back. No, came a new voice. Captain Lyra had been given special permission to address the Union via long-range communication from her ship. The humans are not teaching us to fight. They are fighting for us. There is a difference. Her image appeared on the chamber's main screen, showing her floating peacefully in her crystal ship while human warships moved protectively around her. 6 months ago, my people sent a distress call expecting someone to help us run away, she continued. Instead, we found someone willing to stand and fight for us. The humans ask nothing in return except the chance to help more people like us. But surely you fear what they might become, Ambassador Quinn pressed. What happens when they decide they know better than us what's best for the galaxy? Lyra was quiet for a moment, looking at something off-screen. When she spoke again, her voice was filled with warmth. Let me show you something, she said. The screen split to show another part of her ship, where Admiral Chen was sitting cross-legged on the floor, carefully teaching a young Zephyrian how to fold paper into origami shapes. The human's large, powerful hands moved with gentle precision as she helped the child create a paper butterfly. This is the admiral who destroyed 200 enemy ships, Lyra said softly. This is the warrior who the galaxy fears, and she is spending her free time teaching my daughter how to make art from paper. The Union chamber fell silent as they watched the scene. The contrast was striking. The feared Deathworlder and the innocent child working together to create something beautiful. The humans are predators, Lyra continued. But they have chosen to be predators that hunt other predators. They have chosen to use their strength to protect the weak rather than exploit them. By the time the human fleet reached Titan 7, the Galactic Union had made its decision. A formal message was waiting for Admiral Chen when she arrived in the system. Admiral Chen, the message began. By unanimous vote of the Galactic Union Council, humanity is hereby granted full membership with special status as the galaxy's peacekeeping force. You are authorized to respond to any distress call from any species with full Union support. Chen read the message while studying the tactical situation at Titan 7. The Hegemony Empire had surrounded the planet with their fleet, bombarding the surface installations where the peaceful mollusks lived. Well, she said to Commander Johnson, it looks like we're official now. How do we want to handle this one, Admiral? Johnson asked. Chen looked at the enemy fleet, then at her own ships. 15 human vessels against 50 Hegemony warships. The odds were better than at Kepler 442b, but still challenging. The same way we handle all of them, she replied. We show them what happens when you pick on someone under human protection. The Battle of Titan 7 lasted 6 hours and ended with the complete surrender of the Hegemony fleet. Word of the ITI victory spread across the galaxy within days, carried by news networks and trading vessels. But the most important message came from an unexpected source. Deep in the Outer Rim, in a system so remote that few species even knew it existed, a new distress call was broadcast across all frequencies. This is Colony Ship Refuge, the message said. We are survivors from 12 different worlds that were destroyed by various predator species. We have been running for years trying to find somewhere safe to rebuild our lives. The voice paused, filled with hope that hadn't been there for years. We have heard the stories. We have heard about beings, called humans, who protect the innocent. We don't know if the stories are true, but we're broadcasting our location anyway. If you exist, if you really do help people like us, please come. We're tired of running. We want to go home. Admiral Chen received the message while still in orbit around Titan 7. She looked at the peaceful mollusk world below, where the snail-like inhabitants were already emerging from their shells to thank their human protectors. Set course for the refuge coordinates, she ordered. Maximum speed. Admiral, Johnson said with a smile. I'm detecting 17 other distress calls on various frequencies. Word is spreading that humans answer calls for help. Chen looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in that vast darkness, innocent, people were waiting for help that had never come before. Then we better get more ships, she said. It looks like we're going to be busy. In the months that followed, human fleets spread across the galaxy, answering distress calls and protecting the helpless.